98 Hyundai Accent GL, and I am taking out this strut here, and it's got to be completely taken apart. I got to take out these bolts here, which are 21 mil, then the bolts down here in the back. I'll show you. Right? Keep this out the way. Now we're looking at these two lower bolts. You gotta start from the bottom always, work your way up. These are 17 on each side. Gotta use 1/2" drive ratchet, always. Make sure it's unloosened. Sometimes that bolt may spin, so you'd have to grab another ratchet with a, oh, that's the 12. I'll need that for the top. 17 here. Just checking, making sure. And if I could spin by hand. Pull this bolt out. That's our first bolt. Now we're on to our second bolt here. Pretty tricky once you fully get this strut out. Not sure if this is going to fit in here. Got our second nut off, but not the bolt out yet. You're going to want to shake this to where it comes out. Gonna have to pull this bolt. That's a 12 or a 10.
Can you point to that bolt again?
This bolt here.
Okay. And why do we have to take that bolt off?
Because it's connected to the strut and it's also our brake hose.
Okay.
So. Like I said, it was 12. And it will be a 12 for the top 3 bolts too. There's our rusty bolt.
Okay.
Now I'm going to lower the car just so I can get to the top. Now it's these 3 bolts I got to take off. Where'd my wrench go? This wrench stay at 12. Make sure it's still on the off.
Is there any warnings for a person trying to do this the first time when they're taking bolts out?
Yes, never remove the center bolt, the spring. Seeing how it's compressed and it's a high compression spring, it will kick out and end up putting you to the hospital. And it's highly dangerous.
Can you show me where that center bolt is?
Right underneath this cap.
Oh, okay.
Seeing how I already have the cap off and 2 other bolts off. Set them up here. Usually I should put them on the cart, right?
As long as you don't lose them.
Now I just wiggle out, hold on to it. Set that down. There's our strut.
Okay.
So now I got to take it over to the strut machine and pull it out. And I forgot what size bolt that was. I think it was 21. Fits, but it's more 19. And I'm gonna have to use 1/2-inch drive. And I'll need the gun. And bring it over to the strut machine. Want me to head this way or? Set my gun here. Got to make sure it's rotated out, facing how it was on the car. Push it back. And try and get it level sitting inside this strut machine. gonna turn this lower. Now that I can turn down here, it's able to be pulled out. On reverse. Now it's fully disassembled. Third bolt. We now have our bolt and our washer.
Can you show that to me again?
Our bolt and washer
Okay.
with a lot of grease. Set that there.
Now, how do we know if one of those are bad?
Oh, you'll push in on it, and you could either, it won't come up when it's fully together, and it can have a bad jounce going down the road, and when you're going down, it's just having your front end or back end bounce
Okay.
a bunch of times when you hit a bump.
Alright.
You want to make sure that it's pulled out as far as it can go.
Will you have to do that to a new strut? Will a new strut, would you have to pull out on it, or?
No.
Okay.
And it will also leak a oily film if it's a bad strut.
Oh, okay. Now, is there anything you have to look for in particular when you're putting that strut in? Is there anything you have to line up, or?
Yeah, you have to line up this flat spot here. And I could show you that there's no other flat spot than that.
Oh, okay.
And you have to line that up with the back here because that's where the flat spot would be. I'll sand it up. Line it up. Clamp it. And pull if I can still get a grip on it. Which I can't. Never do take the center bolt out on the ground, you will get hurt. While I'm holding that, clamp it quick. Clamp it, line it up, hold it. Then we have to put these bolts back through here when it's going down. I don't have to line up anymore. There is a right and wrong way. If you have this facing upward, that's the right way going on. If this is facing upward, that's the wrong way. What I like to do is take the 19 mil socket and just screw it on there by hand first, and then tighten it with the bolt, or else you're gonna strip it if you just flap it with the gun. And then that won't be good. Then you would have to get a whole new strut for the car. This way is forward. This way is reverse. Now I'm gonna have to line this up with this crevice here to this notch there.
Can you show that?
This notch here has to go into this hole here.
Okay.
And if it's not, you could possibly hurt the strut pretty bad. And once you see that it's seated, that's how you take apart a strut safely. Putting the strut back in is opposite than taking out. You would start from the top, then the bottom. Well, when you have it seated in. 3 holes to line up. Sits like that in there. There's the last bolt for this. Alright, now wait and first put in these bottom bolts before tightening those up. Gotta make sure these holes are lined up with the bracket. Check, get this bolt in. tap it in by hand if you want, or use a small ball peen hammer to tap it in. But if you're doing that, make sure you don't whack it where the threads are, because if you hit it where these threads are, you will strip the bolt pretty much. The bottom's harder than the top. Not sure if there's any specific way to put these nuts on, but other ones there are. Now I will tighten up the top 3 bolts before I tighten the bottom ones. Now you can put the cap on. I believe the cap's there to stop water from getting in and creating a bunch of rust. Don't want to over crank them, because then you could definitely strip them. Putting the 12 mil back, grabbing the 17, and a 17.5 inch. I would assume this would tighten them up for the top and bottom. For the brake line, there it goes. This hose swings up to here to the line, and then it goes to the master cylinder. This is what's known as a torque wrench. It has foot-pounds and newton meters here. With a lock. My first torque is going to be 15. I'm not sure if you can see that, but and I'm going to need the 12 inch. You only want to wait till you hear the click, never go past the click. Now I'm going to need the 17 3/8 driver. forgot to tighten up my torque.
Are all the torques the same for these vehicles?
Different.
So what should a person do to find the correct torque for their vehicle?
Use all data, or like like to call it, or my friends, we like to call it some data.
Okay.
So, sure. What I would do, seeing how that bolt wants to spin, grab the 17 inch ratchet and hold it with the open end wrench. You might need the 17 short. Oh, that's torqued. And I shouldn't have tried to. Gonna want that on for flush. Yep, torqued. And that's how you do the strut removal and repair.